Homebrew Wednesday, everybody. Cheers. Oh. So, this weekend, Sunday, I finally got a chance to brew that coconut IPA. I'm not going to keep you because it's quite long. So here you go. Hi, how's it going? Today we're going to go ahead and finally brew up that coconut IPA. So really looking forward to it. Currently got the strike water heating up. It's currently 68 degrees and aiming for 75. Once it reaches 75 degrees, we'll go ahead and put it into the mash tun and put it in the grist. While the mash is going on today, I'll also take a trip up and toast the coconut and get that ready, and I'll show you what that's like. So right now I'm going to go ahead and mill up the grains, and I'll show you what that looks like after. Pretty good grist. Nice cut. Alright, so now everything's all hooked up again. Let's go ahead and mash in. Now some people might be asking me, why do I put the water in first and then the grains after, instead of putting the grains in first and just filling it up through the valve in the front? Well, I do fill it up via the valve in the front, but I'm not quite sure of the ratio actually. I need to find that calculation. I've seen it in How to Brew and a couple other publications, but I don't have it written down anywhere, and every time it comes to a brew day I always seem to forget to look at it. I'm always reminded of it, but yeah, the grains actually should go in first and then fill up your water after that based on your volume. I can look at it coming out of the HLT and know that there's 5 gallons coming out of it. Okay, mash is done. Well, not done, but all mashed in. Time to put in my recirculation hose. There we go. Right there. Okay, so I've got the mash dialed in for 66 degrees. Inside the HLT it's currently 70. That was my fault. I kind of let it go a little bit high. But that's okay. The mash tun is currently 65 degrees and we want to get it to 66 anyways. So that element will slow down and stop so that this will temperature will actually drop over the course of the next hour. So I'm going to go ahead and just start the timer, and we're mashing for 60 minutes. And for the duration of the math, the configuration is as always. The work coming out of the mash tun coming down to the bottom of the pump, from the bottom of the pump back up into the HLT coil, where it then exits and comes back up to the top of the HLT. See how this is going now. It's coming out. No whirlpool yet. A little bit there over the edge. That's good. It's just a little bit of foam, so we can't see it so much. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so for the coconuts that I'll be using, it's going to be this brand here that I get in Norway, Kokos Massa. Says that it's good for desserts, oatmeal, and cakes. But and most importantly, it's organic. So it's like a shredded coconut, so should be good. I got a paint strainer to put this in, and this will go in at flame out. So yeah. Let me go ahead and measure out 320 grams of that here on the scale, And then I'll put it over here into the baking sheet where I'll toast it up this afternoon. At about 90 degrees Celsius, 193 Fahrenheit, something like that. Currently 10 minutes into this. Should do it for about 15 minutes. Well, here we go. That's the end product. I've got that toasted for about 15 minutes in the oven. It's actually closer to 20. There's no browning whatsoever. It's just kind of dried it out a little bit. And then now I'm going to go ahead and put it into the strainer bag. Alright, so here we are winding down at the end of the mash. I got about just about 58 minutes in the mash. Right temperatures on the mash tun, showing 64 at the bottom of the HLT. Of course, you know, so we got 65 in the HLT. It's set for 66. If we come over here, we look at the HLT, you can say it's pretty much 66. And then if we look at the way that this kind of works, the water here is 66 degrees and they got the coil in there sitting in, so the wort coming out of here at the bottom of the mash tun is showing that it's 64 degrees coming out of the valve through the pump back up through the HLT, rise in temperature back up to 66 degrees, and then going on top of the mash tun at 66 degrees. So you can imagine it's probably 66 degrees at the top, but as it gets lower it sort of cools down a little bit. So I'm thinking about putting on like a thermal vest around the mash tun just to kind of maintain temperature in there a little bit better. Time to mash out, so here we go, starting to fill the boil kettle. Looking pretty nice. Alright, so first wort hopping is in. Centennial is in there. Starting to break apart. Using pellets for this one. The only flowers I'm using today are for the Belma and the Citra. Fresh from Hops Direct a week ago. Off the vines about a week before that. Okay, so we're at the time during the mash out where all of the numbers are critical. I've already drained out the 6 gallons that I'm going to use for sparge water into the mash tun, and that's been continuously draining into the boil kettle over the course of the entire time. That's been about 45 minutes so far. I'm currently at 6 1/4 gallon in the boil kettle. The run-ins that are coming out right now, the gravity is 1.039. The gravity of the total volume so far is 1.059, and what I want to get is 1.053. And I don't want the water or the wort that's coming out of the mash tun right now to drop below 1.008. 1.010 is probably best, just to avoid any tannins. If we go below that, then we're likely to get tannins and cause astringency in the beer. So we don't want that. So the key is now is this is much lower gravity coming out of the mash tun than my target. My target is 1.053. Again, in the boil kettle now it's 1.059, and that's, as it brings in diluted volumes of liquid, that number is going to drop, and when it gets to 1.053 I should be at my pre-boil gravity and pre-boil volume. So that's where all of these numbers become very critical, and that's what I'm monitoring right now at a constant basis. Every 5 minutes, when it gets down to close to like 1.015, I will monitor the output of the mash tun like every minute, and then I'll continue to stir the boil kettle to mix in all of the diluted liquid coming out of the mash tun and continuously check my pre-boil gravity and make sure it never goes below or stays above that target of 1.053. If you've understood all that and you're with me, awesome. Target was 1053. I got about 1052. I'm okay with that. As far as the mash goes, I met my usual expectations, right around 93% mash efficiency. Right, so overall brew house efficiency is usually much less, like 80s. But mash efficiency was really good. I didn't use as many grains as Ryan had talked about on his recipe. I used about a pound less than the two-row just because, you know, my system, I have to take that into fact. So I was calibrating my Beersmith calculations according to his targets, not necessarily the recipe per se. The hops were a little bit different than he had mentioned, but as long he gave percentages or IBUs, and that was perfect because I was matching those right on, and that's exactly what I expect to get. It's right about 69-70% or 70 IBUs out of this beer in the end when all is said and done. Let me go ahead and show you the recipe while I'm waiting for the boil. Okay, so here's my version of it. Boil time is going to be 75 minutes today, and yeah, I usually get about brew house efficiency around 80%. Okay, so coming down here, the recipe, Ryan's original recipe, what I got up on BrewToad called for 5.5 or 5.6 kilograms of two-row, and that's okay. I mean, if you're using like a cooler or whatever in order to do your mash, I guess that's to be expected. But when I make up a grain bill, you know, what I really like to follow is not necessarily the amounts, but basically the percentages of each one of the ingredients, and then the overall numbers that I expect to be able to get out of that. For example, my estimated pre-boil gravities versus, you know, the kind of grains that went into the brew. So for this one, in addition to that, I went off with 600 grams of Pilsner malt, 310 grams of Munich malt, 200 grams of Carapils, and 200 grams of honey malt. So I started off with the first wort hop-ins of 27 grams of Centennial, and that went in as I was draining the mash tun into the boil kettle. That's a continuous sparge. So the first 10 minutes, so that's the only hop addition until 10 minutes, and then at 10 minutes I'll come up with Amarilla, Motueka, Mosaic, Belma, and Citra. And basically I'm targeting these IBUs for each one of those, and that will give me how much I actually need to put in. Then again, at flame out, that's when we'll put in the 340 grams of coconut that was toasted, and then we'll put in these 4 hops, Amarilla, Motueka, Belma, and Citra. Of course, I'm not hitting any IBUs here at this point, but it's roughly an ounce or a little bit less than an ounce per hop, depending on the IBUs. Right, so my estimated pre-boil gravity was 1.053. I actually pulled out 1.052, so I'm pretty good with that. I mean, Ryan's comments was that it's going to be between 7.3 and 7.7 as long as it fully attenuates out, and that's pretty much the key. Okay, so I'm getting the boil going, so I'm going to go ahead and monitor this and get back to you. Okay, so I got that under control. Got a nice little rolling boil there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the timer. Start that. Start at 75-minute boil. I'm also going to turn this up to about 80% efficiency. Get a nice boil going. There we go. That's about 80% efficiency. I should lose about a 13% boil off rate. So I should lose about a gallon, 1.2 or 3 gallons, 1.2 or 1.3 gallons per hour on that. Ventilation system's still working pretty good. It's going right up and out. Got it turned up pretty high right now. Nothing really collecting on the light. It's just getting sucked right in. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Alright guys, so we're at the 65-minute mark of a 75-minute boil. Time to go in and put in the 10-minute additions. My battery died on the phone, so you're not going to see the Whirlflock tablet and the yeast nutrient. Big deal, right? But the 10-minute addition. Alright, we're at the 75-minute mark. Time to do the flame out. Shut off the element. Here's the first hop additions. It's actually two vessels there. Everything but the Citra. Well, here comes the Citra. Okay, so Whirlpool is running. Time for the coconut as well. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and just let that steep in there. Let the Whirlpool go for 20 minutes. Wow, that coconut certainly does have an influence. That's pretty cool. I can't remember ever having that many hop oils, or maybe the coconut oil on top of the wort after the boil. So that's interesting. There's quite a bit of stuff there. So, OG about 170, 171. So here we are 24 hours later. I used this WLP 090, the San Diego super yeast. So it's doing pretty good. Not a bad start. So as you just saw, everything went off pretty well. I only came out about it's about 1.5 quarts short on my volumes. But I pretty much hit the marks almost dead on. I was just a little bit over on the OG. It's going to be an 8% beer about. I'm fully confident that the yeast I use is going to fully attenuate out. So I'm really looking forward to trying that beer with the coconut. I mean, it's one thing to smell it while it's, you know, in the whirlpool, but the hops aroma and taste changes. It evolves. So with the coconut in the keg, that's going to be very interesting. So really looking forward to that one. Beyond that, not much else going on brew-wise this week. Big shout out to Barry for getting all the brew tubers to talk about themselves and talk about when they started homebrewing, why they started homebrewing, what they like about the brew tubers community, the Homebrew Wednesdays. I thought that was a really cool initiative. So cheers to you, Barry. So that's about it. I won't keep you any longer. Hope you guys are having a happy Homebrew Wednesday. Cheers.